Part 6, Attraction of Desire Power. Not only does the principle of desire power manifest itself in the direction of unfolding, evolving and developing new attributes and powers in living things, so as to supply the demand created in them by need, as we have explained in the preceding section of this book, but it also proceeds to accomplish similar purposes and ends by means of another important phase of power possessed by it, i.e., the power of attraction. Attraction is defined as an invisible power in a body by which it draws anything to itself. The power in nature acting mutually between bodies or ultimate particles, tending to draw them together, or to produce their cohesion of combination, and conversely resisting separation. The term, attraction, is derived from two Latin terms, viz., ad, meaning to intrahere, meaning to draw, the two being combined in the derivative Latin term, attractus, meaning a drawing together. In physical science, the principal forms of attraction are gravitational attraction, the chemical affinity of the atoms, the cohesive attraction of the molecules, the attraction of electrified bodies, and the attraction of the magnet exerted upon iron or steel. In psychology, the principal forms of attraction are those arising between living beings by reason of their mutual likes, the force called repulsion, being the negative form of attraction, acting in the same manner but in an opposite direction, and resulting from mutual dislikes. While freely admitting that the attraction and repulsion existing in and manifested between living things is the result of the action of inner forces rather than of outside forces, physical science has usually held that the attraction and repulsion existing in and manifested between non-living objects and things is the result of some outside stress or strain operating on the objects or things, though the nature of such outside forces is admitted to be unknown and mysterious. Of late years, however, there has been a decided tendency toward the acceptance of the hypothesis that even non-living objects and things, as, for instance, the chemical elements and particles of matter, possess the property of like or dislike for certain other objects and things, and the power to respond to such inner states. This hypothesis attributes attraction and repulsion in inanimate things to inner forces rather than to outer forces, thus bringing inanimate and animate objects under the same general law of attraction. While this new hypothesis throws a most interesting light upon the subject of chemical affinity and other forms of physical attraction and repulsion, showing that even the atoms have their loves and hates and their response thereto, we shall not consider this aspect of the subject, inasmuch as it lies outside of the field of our present work. Instead, we shall consider that phase of the new knowledge which has an important bearing upon the subject of the nature and power of the attraction of desire in living things. If chemical affinity, magnetism, etc., are really manifestations of the power of like and dislike, in short, of desire, then the attraction of desire in living things is seen possibly to possess a power of drawing which is but little suspected by the average person. The mental scientists, and the other schools of practical metaphysics, for the last quarter century or more have been teaching the attractive power of thought, i.e., the doctrine that thoughts have an attractive power tending to attract or to draw toward a person the things and conditions corresponding to the character of his general thought. The new knowledge concerning desire power in inanimate things serves to explain scientifically the undoubted facts advanced by the metaphysicians to support their own theories. Here, however, it is seen that desire rather than thought is the chief mental attracting power. Inasmuch, however, as the attractive thought of the metaphysicians is usually inspired and energized by the desire power of the person exercising it, it is seen that the two teachings incline to blend and harmonize with each other rather than to oppose and contradict each other. The many instances of the coordination between different living things, between plant and insect, for instance, by means of which each supplies to the combination that which the other lacks, which has long puzzled the scientific observer, is now explainable under this new hypothesis of the attraction of desire. The plant requires the services of the insect in order to perpetuate its species. It attracts the insect by reason of its desire power, having evolved the honey which the insect requires for food, and by means of advertising the presence of the honey through the colors of the flowers. There is a correlation between flower and insect which has arisen by reason of desire power. The curious adaptations of the food requirements of certain plants, and the apparently instinctive response of certain chemicals to these, furnish us with other striking examples. Different things need each other in order to express their respective natures and to manifest their respective destinies, and so they attract each other. Science furnishes us with many examples of this reciprocal service and correlation, passing by the more general aspects and phases of this important and wonderful operation of nature's finer forces, and proceeding directly to those phases of the general process which are immediately concerned with the human individual. We would say that the essential spirit of this particular operation may be stated in the following aphorism: the strongest and most persistent desires of the individual tend to attract to him, or him to, that which is closely related to or correlated with those desires. That is to say, the strong insistent desires of a person tend to attract to him those things which are closely related to such desires and, at the same time, tend to attract him toward those related things. The attractive power of desire operates in two general ways, viz., 1. To attract to the individual the things closely related to his desires, and 2. To attract the individual to such related things. It is as yet not known exactly how nature proceeds in this important process of attractive desire or desire power, but in a general way it may be said that the action is chiefly performed on the planes of the subconscious mentality rather than on the planes of ordinary consciousness, and that the general class of mental activity known as telepathy undoubtedly is called into play in the process. The entire subject is involved in the general activities of the subconscious, as, indeed, are all similar subjects. Whatever may be the correct hypothesis, however, the truth of the main facts of the attraction of desire is a matter of the actual experience of the race, and is corroborated by the incidents of actual experience occurring in the life of nearly every person manifesting definite purpose, insistent desire and determined will. In your own experience, in all probability, you have experienced many cases of the operation of this subtle law of nature. You have become intensely interested in some particular subject, and your desire for further progress and attainment along the lines of that subject has been actively aroused. Then you have noticed the strange and peculiar way in which persons and things related to that subject have come under your observation and attention, sometimes even being apparently forced upon you apart from any act on your part. In the same way, you have found yourself attracted in certain directions in which, unknown to you, were to be found persons or things related to the subject of your desire, information concerning that subject, conditions in which the subject was involved or being manifested. In short, you have found that things happened as if you were either attracting persons, things, and circumstances to you, or else that you were being attracted, drawn, or led to such persons, things, or circumstances. Under such conditions, you will find arising on all sides certain events connected with and related to the subject of your desire, books containing information concerning it, persons having some connection with it, conditions in which that subject plays an important part. You will find, on the one hand, that you seem to have become a center of attraction for things, persons and circumstances related to that subject, or, on the other hand, that you are being attracted to certain centers of attraction related to that subject. In short, you will discover that you have set into operation certain subtle forces and principles which have correlated you with all related to that subject. More than this, you will find that if you will maintain for a considerable time a continuous and persistent interest and desire in that particular subject, you will have established a vortex, a center of attraction for that which is related to the subject. You will have set into operation a mental whirlpool, steadily spreading its circumference of influence, which draws into itself and to your central point the related and correlated things, persons, and circumstances. This is one of the reasons why after you get things going in any particular line of interest and desire, things tend to come easier to and for you as time passes. In such cases, that which required enormous effort in the earlier stages seems to move almost automatically in the later ones. These are matters of common and almost universal experience with those who have been actively engaged in any particular line of work in which strong interest and insistent desire have been aroused and maintained. You must not, however, hastily jump to the conclusion that all forms of mental attraction are desire attraction. The general mental attitude has its corresponding attractive power. The mental states of confident expectation, of hope and fear, respectively, also have their attributes of attractive influence. But the attractive power and influence of desire is far more fundamental than are the other forms and phases of mental attraction, and, in a way, may be said to be the basic form. These matters are mentioned here solely for the purpose of preventing misunderstanding and confusion. So, you see, desire power tends not only to develop and evolve within you the qualities and powers necessary to enable you to manifest and express yourself along the lines of the desires persistently held by you. It also tends to attract to you, and you to them, the things, persons, circumstances and conditions related to or correlated with the subject of such desires. In other words, desire power employs every means at its disposal in order to express and manifest itself more fully, and, through you, to attain its object and end its greatest possible degree of satisfaction and realization. When you have thoroughly aroused desire power within you, and have created for it a strong, positive focal center of influence, you have set into operation powerful forces of nature, operating along subconscious and invisible lines of activity. In this connection, remember the adage, you may have anything you want if you only want it hard enough. The attractive force of desire power operates in many different ways. In addition to the drawing power operating along the lines of something like telepathy of which we have spoken, it also operates in other ways on the subconscious planes of the mind in order to influence, guide and direct the person to the other persons, things, conditions, and circumstances related or correlated to or with the particular desire which is being persistently and insistently held by that person. Under its influence, the subconscious mentality raises to the levels of consciousness new ideas, thoughts, plans, which if applied will tend to lead the person in the direction of the things which will serve to aid him in the realization of those desires which he is insistently harboring. In this way, the person is led to the related things, just as in the other ways the things are led to him. Desire power pushes, as truly as it pulls it urges you forward as truly as it attracts things to you. In some cases the process is entirely subconscious, and the person is amazed when he finds by chance, that he has stumbled upon helpful things in places in which he had least expected to find them, and in places to which he had apparently been led by chance. But there is no chance about it. Persons are undoubtedly led to helpful things and conditions, but by desire power operating along the lines of the subconscious mentality, and not by chance. Many successful men could tell, if they would, how often in their respective careers, at critical times, the most peculiar happenings have been experienced by them, seemingly by chance or by accident, which served as the means of transforming defeat into victory. In this way they acquired by chance some important bit of information serving to supply the missing link in their mental chain, or else giving them a clue to that which had previously escaped their thought. Or, perhaps, they unexpectedly ran into the person who afterward turned out to be the one particular person who alone could have helped them in certain ways. Or, again, they have picked up at random the particular newspaper, magazine, or book which either gave them the required information, or else mentioned some other book or thing which filled the need. These things happen so often, and in such a striking way, that many men of active experience have learned to expect them, to rely upon them, and to act upon them. Not knowing the true underlying causes of the happenings, they usually refrain from mentioning their experiences to their friends for fear of being regarded as superstitious or credulous. But if the subject happens to be introduced in confidential conversation between men of this kind, it will be found that the instances cited are numerous, and are so strikingly similar in general nature that the careful thinker is forced to the conclusion that there is some fundamental principle involved in the events, and that there is a logical sequence of cause and effect indicated. Not knowing the true cause of these happenings, men are prone to ascribe them to luck, fate, destiny, chance, or else to think of them simply as one of those things beyond explanation. Some men who have become familiar with them have learned to recognize them readily when they experience them, by reason of a feeling that here is another of those things. They learn to distinguish between a mere general and vague notion, and a sure enough hunch. Sometimes, men think that these things are the result of the aid of a kindly providence operating in their behalf. Others feel that they have helpers on the other side. Still others feel that there is something almost uncanny about the whole thing. But so long as it is perceived to operate in their behalf, all are willing to take advantage of the aid of the unknown power. Of course, the subconscious mentality of the individual is the helper, or directing genius in such cases, and the happenings are merely phases of the general phenomena of the subconscious. But, Nevertheless, desire power is the animating principle involved. The subconscious mentality, like the conscious mentality, is energized and aroused into activity by the urge of desire power. Desire power employs every possible form of energy, activity and motive via power at its command, and also presses into service all kinds of machinery and instruments, mental and physical. The fire of desire kindles every faculty of the mind, unconscious and subconscious planes, and sets them all into active work on its behalf. Without desire power in some form or phase, none of these faculties would manifest activity. Where activity is manifested by them, there is always implied the presence and urge of desire power. Sometimes desire power will operate in strangely indirect ways in order to accomplish its results. By means of the under-the-surface perception of the subconscious faculties, desire power seemingly perceives that the longest way round is the quickest way home, and it proceeds to cause the individual to pursue that longest way round in order to attain his desire in the shortest possible time. In such cases it often acts so as to upset and overturn the plans which one has carefully mapped out. The result makes it seem to one that failure and defeat, instead of victory and success, have come to him. It will sometimes dare the person away from his present comparatively satisfactory environment and conditions, and then lead him over rock roads and hard trails, and finally, when he has almost despaired of attaining success, he finds it literally thrust upon him. Such instances are not invariable, of course, but they occur sufficiently often and with such characteristically marked features that they must be recognized. It often happens that, as one who has experienced it has said, it seems as if one were grabbed by the back of his neck, lifted out of his set environment and occupation, dragged roughly over a painful road, and then thrust forcibly but kindly upon the throne of success, or at least into the throne room with the throne in plain sight before him. But, at the last, those who have experienced these strenuous activities of desire power operating through the subconscious nature and in many other ways are found to agree universally in the statement: the end justify the means, the thing is worth the price paid for it. It requires philosophy and faith to sustain one when he is undergoing experiences of this kind, but the knowledge of the law and principle in operation will of course greatly aid him. The right spirit to maintain in such cases is that expressed in the phrase of the A.E.F. In France, "It's a great life, if you don't weaken." Desire power employs freely the subconscious faculties in its work of realization through attraction. It employs these in man just as it employs them in the case of the homing pigeon, the migrating birds, the bee far from its hive. It supplies the homing instinct to the man seeking success, as well as to the animal seeking refuge. It is said that animals separated from their mates, seemingly are attracted to them over long distances. Lost animals find their way home, though many miles over strange country have to be traveled. Let a person establish a refuge for birds, and the birds will soon begin to travel toward it. Even strange species from long distances putting in an appearance. Waterfowls travel unerringly toward water. The roots of trees manifest the same sense of direction toward water and rich soil. In high and low, the law of desire attraction manifests its power. Man is under the law, and may even cause the law to work for him when he understands its nature. Man may harness desire power just as he has harnessed other great forces of nature, may harness it and set it to work for him. Once set to work for him, this power will work without haste, and without rest toward the end impressed upon it. It will work for him while he is awake and working otherwise, and when he is asleep and resting from his conscious work. Desire is the force of forces, because it is the inmost kernel of all the other forms of natural force, physical or mental. All force depends upon inner attraction or repulsion, and these are but the manifestation of desire power, positive or negative.